If you're leading a small church, you know that feeling, right? You've got this deep desire to see it grow, but sometimes it feels like, well, like you're stuck. This explainer is for you. We're going to dive into some really powerful, timeless ideas that are all about helping small congregations not just get by, but really, truly thrive.
I think this is a question almost every small church leader asks themselves at some point. It's so easy to look at your size and feel like you've just hit a wall, but the principles we're about to unpack suggest something totally different. What if being small isn't a problem you need to solve, but actually a powerful advantage just waiting to be unlocked?
So, here's our roadmap for this journey. We're going to start with the why, God's original design for growth. Then we'll get into the how by looking back at the early church and learning to embrace the unique strengths of being small. And finally, we'll make it super practical with the 3 core pillars of growth and one simple, actionable first step you can take.
All right, so let's start with the most foundational question of all. Why should a church even want to grow? This isn't about chasing bigger numbers or a bigger budget. The core idea here is that wanting to grow is really about getting in step with God's fundamental design for His church. The principle is really simple, and you see it everywhere in creation. Everything God plants, He designs to grow. Well, the church is no different. It was never meant to be a static monument that we just maintain. It was designed to be a living, breathing organism, planted specifically to flourish and bear fruit.
And this isn't just some nice theory. The book of Acts basically gives us the hard data. On day 1, the very first day, the church saw 3,000 people added. Just a short time later, one healing at the temple led to the number of men alone growing to 5,000. This wasn't slow, gradual change. It was immediate, it was explosive, and it really set the precedent for everything that was to come.
And it's so important to understand the heart behind this message. This isn't some critique from an outsider looking in. It's an encouragement dedicated to the pastors who are right there on the ground, the unsung heroes, doing the faithful day-in, day-out work. It's a powerful reminder that your leadership, right where you are, matters immensely. Okay, so if the early church is the model, what can we actually learn from them? This isn't about trying to recreate their first-century culture. No togas required. It's about uncovering the principles that fueled their incredible growth, principles that are just as potent today as they were back then.
So this means we've got to focus on the principles, not the specific methods. Methods change with the times, but the foundations, those are timeless. The goal is to be, as the saying goes, anchored to the rock but geared to the times. And maybe the most powerful principle they had was the absolutely radical quality of their relationships.
That quality is all wrapped up in this one Greek word, koinonia. And let me tell you, this is so much more than just having coffee and donuts after the service. It means a deep, binding partnership. This level of commitment to one another, well, that was the engine of the early church. It created this attractive, powerful community that people were just drawn to.
Okay, I know what some of you might be thinking right now. That's great for the early church, but we're a small church. But what if that's not a disadvantage? What if being small is actually your secret weapon? Let's talk about why small can be incredibly beautiful and uniquely powerful.
This is where being small becomes your superpower. Where a large church can sometimes feel impersonal, you offer a personal touch. Where they have formal structures, you have a warm family atmosphere. Instead of people just being spectators in a crowd, everyone has an opportunity to get involved. See, this isn't a list of weaknesses you need to fix. This is a list of your greatest strengths. And hey, if you ever feel alone in being small, you're not. Not even close. According to the data, a full 50% of churches worldwide have fewer than 75 members. You are not the exception to the rule. You are right there with the majority. Your reality is the norm for countless faithful congregations all over the globe.
So, once we embrace those strengths, how do we actually build on them? Well, the path to healthy, sustainable growth really rests on 3 foundational pillars. And these aren't complicated theories. They are practical, essential factors for any church of any size.
So the 3 pillars are effective leadership, which is all about providing vision and direction. Edifying the body, which is about building up that deep koinonia fellowship we talked about. And evangelistic activities, the practical things we do to invite new people in. But here's the most important part. Not one of these pillars requires a huge building, a big budget, or a massive staff. They are just as powerful, and honestly, maybe even more so in a small church.
All right, we've covered the why and the what. Now let's land the plane and talk about the how.
It's time to take all these big, timeless principles and boil them down into a single, practical, strategic first step that you can take. Now, I know the word strategy can sound a little corporate or intimidating, like it's all about human effort. But let's just think of it as an intentional plan. It's not about replacing God's power, it's about faithfully and thoughtfully cooperating with His purpose. And any good strategy, no matter what, always starts in the exact same place with a clear vision.
So your first step is to craft the vision. And this isn't just wishful thinking. It's a deeply spiritual process. It means praying about it, like really praying about it. It means emptying your mind of all your preconceived ideas about what should happen. It's about learning to tune in and listen for what God's Spirit is actually saying about the future of your community. And then, once you start to get that clarity, write it down, give it shape, make it specific. This becomes the starting block for everything that follows.
So, we'll leave you with this final question to chew on. We've talked about the unique power you have, that personal touch, that family atmosphere. Knowing that, what is just one simple thing you can do this week to lean into one of those amazing strengths you already have?